What's up everybody and welcome to another video. In today's course, we're going to talk about trend lines. Now, as we discussed in a previous video, trend lines act as support and resistance. And today we're going to put that to test, right? We're going to chart out a bunch of trend lines everywhere just to get a feel for it. So right off the bat, keep in mind higher time frames, of course, just like anything in TA. Higher time frames just take more precedence over what's going on in the lower time frames. So if you have a trend line on the lower time frames, it's not going to make much sense, or it's not going to be as important as, say, a trend line that you have on the higher time frames. Now, let's just look back in time and see a pattern throughout the previous weeks. I think a pattern that everybody's pretty much seen who has been charting. So this right here, we have both a support and a resistance trend line, and this is actually a pattern which we'll discuss in a later video. But as we can see, this area has been used as support multiple times. So the magic when it comes to support and resistance, at least 2 touches is what I want to see from a trend line. Usually the third is the magic, right? Usually there's a move that happens after the third, but as we can see, we've selected a pretty nice support, we've pretty nice resistance. Every time price goes up or down to these 2 trend lines, usually a reaction happens, right? As we can see, we had a big breakdown from that pattern. And if we go down to the shorter time frames, we can definitely see a little bit of a retest if we do readjust. So let's go ahead and adjust this a little bit. I actually got pretty close to the retest, but didn't get there right away. There you go. We did have a retest actually on the hourly time frame. So sometimes you will get some sort of retest after, yeah, you can see right here, it came up and missed it by a little bit, but it did come up and retest it just a little bit. But as we can see, you know, you might have to go down to the hourly time frame just to readjust your support and resistance, make sure that it is looking very close to what the wicks and candles are doing. But as we can see, we have a pretty nice move within these 2 trend lines, and then we have a big break. So usually after some sort of trend or break of support or resistance, either trend line or whatever, we may get a retest. So what a retest basically is it allows you to possibly get out of the position or enter a position, right? This is, think of it as, are we really doing this right now, right? Are we really about to go down? Let's go and retest and see what's up. Sometimes you may not get the retest, which sucks, right? If you are waiting for it, but other times you will. So we did get a little bit of a retest right here on the hourly time frame. It's not really much of what I would want to. I would want to see something on the 4 hours, but the hourly is still valid, right? We had a nice retest and then rejection. As we can see here, we have trend lines everywhere. We can make trend lines everywhere, and you know, these breaks is what you really want to focus on, the breaks of these trend lines, either to the upside or downside, because that will allow you to see any sort of reversals, either to the upside or downside. So as we can see, during this whole uptrending you know, pattern that happened, the moment we broke was pretty brutal, right? We broke, we retested, consolidated, and then we had a breakdown from that pattern. So as we can see, boom, boom. And then the moment the swing low got taken out, that's when we really took a dive, right? Because this pretty much was a bearish retest, and we did fail the retest because we would have wanted to see a breakup back into this little range that have allowed us to at least aim for the next higher range of this pattern. But since we did break down, we retested, consolidated for a bit, and then lost that swing low, broke down, consolidated, lost it again. So big move to the downside, but we can see what happens when we lose that support, right? That trending support line. So you can set up trend lines anywhere pretty much as long as it makes sense. So for me, when I look at this, it makes sense, right? Some people draw their trend lines oddly, but as long as it's respected, then that's pretty much all that matters, right? You can set up another trend line right here. So this is at the bottom. So you can see 1, 2, and then 3. So this would have allowed you to at least see the next area. We have another trend line, right? This is the original one we broke. So you use trend lines with confluence, right? So why is this such a great area, right? Not only did we have this, right, we had a nice, beautiful supporting trend line, but we also, if we look at the daily time frame, what we can see here is a pretty good support area that got created, right? So we had a breakout. We had this big red candle. If we go down to the 4 hours, it was a little bit of a consolidation period. All right, so we had this little consolidation. We had the retest. So we had some pretty good confluence right around this same area. So that gave us pretty good indication of a possible, at least temporary bounce. But don't use trend lines on their own to make your trades. Make sure you have a little bit of confluence within your trades to allow you to to enter any positions, right? But trend lines are great. I love trend lines, especially big trend lines, big downtrending trend lines, right? You know, breakouts out of this range are going to be pretty important because it could tell us a possible reversal that's coming. So another area where we had that happen is right around here, back in, I believe this is September. There you go. So we had this pretty gnarly little downtrend that we had. And as we can see, we created a nice, beautiful resisting trend line, and we have a nice little support. So the moment it broke out, it was pretty aggressive. So like I said, whenever you have a breakout of any sort, sometimes you will not get any retests. And those are the most painful trades, I would say, because you see the breakout. Generally, on the safer side, you want to wait for the retest and the continuation to enter into the trade. But a lot of times you may not get that. So if you're waiting for the retest, you would have been waiting. But like I said, breakouts are really, really important because they can indicate a possible reversal. As we can see, we had a little bit of a downtrend and then a big breakout, and then we had a nice continuation to the upside. But this, of course, this trend line, we also had a high right here that acted as resistance. So even if you missed that original move or this original breakout, maybe this consolidation, right, you wait for the next breakout. And as we can see, this is the next area of resistance, which is pretty important. And as we can see, we did have a breakout here. And if we go down to the shorter time frames, we should have had a retest as well. Let's see. Yeah, so we had a retest on the hourly time frame. There you go, because I remember entering it. Breakout, retest, and then we had a continuation. So even if you missed this whole consolidation area or the breakout itself, you could have still entered on the flip of this resistance area, right? And then you could have been able to just grab this whole move potentially. But trend lines are, are great to see any sort of reversals, and we can see trend lines pretty much anywhere, right? They're kind of an art. They're kind of an art. Some people have different looking trend lines, but we can see a nice, beautiful pattern here as well. And you can pretty much create trend lines anywhere, but they act as support. You want to see at least 2 touches, and then you want to look for breakouts or retests. So as we can see here, this is a beautiful flip, right? We can see this support zone. Let's make this red so it makes more sense, right? We had this beautiful trend line acting as support, and then the moment we broke out or broke down, we had the retest and the rejection, beautiful rejection that put us, you know, to the start of the end, which wasn't all that bad compared to what we have now, but still, trend lines are great. So go ahead and pull up a chart, any chart that you want, play around with your trend line, see what's going on, maybe pull up your favorite coin, look at the current price action, see what kind of trend lines you can find. Of course, the bigger trend lines are going to be more important. So anything that's happening right now is important as well. So we can create trend line here. But go ahead and pull up your favorite chart and see what you can find, right? Play around with it, get familiar with trend lines. They're going to help you out a lot, especially when it comes to breakouts. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.